Hi there, and welcome back to Business Builder for QuinnyBiz.com. I'm your host, Ron Davies. Today, I want to talk a little bit about your list. Most folks know that my stomping ground is digital marketing. And what surprised me a lot when I started coaching in the brick and mortar world is how little grasp, understanding, or execution there is around list building for the offline world, offline businesses, restaurants, shops, and whatnot. There has been a little bit of growth through group buy systems like WagJag in Canada or Groupon in Canada and the United States. But the reality is that most small business owners are missing out on what is probably the largest opportunity for growing revenue that there is. Most business owners know that it takes 7 times as many resources to gain a new customer as it does to sell to an existing customer, and yet there are almost no mechanisms in place at most brick and mortar businesses to heed that advice. When we borrow things from the playbook of the digital marketer or the internet marketer, most of these guys, the guys that I kind of cut my teeth with, count on their mailing list. The mailing list that I had with Brother Rick probably had over 500,000 people through it at any one time, just under 100,000. And even when we couldn't sell anything from the list, we would then sell the list to those that would find ways to sell content into that list. And the point here that I'm trying to make is that every business can benefit from list building with the advent of the internet, and in particular the third-party tools that are available inexpensively or free now. There's no reason not to. There's no prohibitive technology barriers that there were even 5 or certainly 10 years ago. A couple of good examples of how to do this simply are, let's create a scenario. Let's say you operate a cafe or a bistro. When people make a purchase at your cafe or bistro, quite often you give them a ticker tape, right? You give them a receipt, either a digital receipt or a paper receipt. On that receipt, there are editable lines. And by editable lines, I mean usually where the name of your bistro goes at the top and things like this. Well, there's a sticker on the side of your point of sale machine, and that sticker is the number that you call whenever you have trouble with your point of sale. You can call that number and ask them how to edit what's on the receipts, and it's usually very, very simple. And if it isn't simple, they'll do it for you. And what should be on your receipt is something like this. Thanks for visiting us at Joe's Bistro today. Please sign up at whatever the .com is and enter your name and email address to receive 10% off your next order or a free flavor shot or whatever has value to the customer that's inexpensive to you. And all they are going to do then is go to a form online. You can even just use the free ones from any Gmail account because Google has forms that you can build, and they're very simple. And this puts people in a place where they can enter their name and their email, and you can collect these things. You now have a way to communicate with your customer. Think about it. So you spend all this money on advertising, whether it's radio or Yelp or signage, and people come in your shop and they buy something and they leave. You haven't really developed any loyalty. Why would they come back? You have no way to communicate with them. Sure, people put up the follow us on Facebook signs, but the reality is, after testing over 10 million cycles at our agency, we know that does very little or nothing. It's not worth the cardboard that it's printed on because it is not a dialogue. It's a broadcast, and people are not interested in broadcasts. They're interested in engagement and dialogue. They're also interested in incentives. I don't know about you, but once in a while I'll receive an email from, say, Trivago or Sunwing or one of the people we travel with, and they'll say, please complete the survey, and it'll only take a minute. And that's it. There's no incentive. There's no reason for me to complete this survey other than they're asking me to do it. That is not an incentive. What they should be saying is, complete the survey and get 50 air miles or some kind of incentive, because we're always interested in WIFM. That's WIFM. And that stands for what's in it for me, right? So you need to do the same thing. Ask for people's email address. Don't ask them just to follow you on Facebook, because that is not a way to communicate with them as an individual. That's just them following your Facebook posts along with a jillion other people posting on Facebook. It's just nowhere near as effective as email marketing, and I can prove it. If that was the case, then there would be guys like me in the digital marketing space who are only marketing for likes on Facebook. And believe you me, we don't buy likes on Facebook. We're not interested in Facebook. We're interested in email so we can speak to people as individuals, and it still works. Email is still the most powerful. So I would suggest that you at least consider changing your cash register tape to incentivize people to go and fill out a form. If you don't know how to do the form, just drop us a note at the contact link at quintybiz.com. We can help you with that. And think of a simple incentive that is not costly to you, but has value to the person. We call that an ethical bribe in the digital marketing space. So you're offering them an ethical bribe, something that means something to the customer, but is inexpensive or free for you. Once you have their email address, then we're going to talk about how you can communicate with them in a pre-programmed sequence of email events that builds know, like, and trust. You've probably heard of know, like, and trust before. Trust is what happens when someone buys something from you. They do a transaction, a Visa card, cash, whatever. But they don't get to trust without liking you, or at least liking your product or liking your service. And they don't get to liking you without knowing who you are, right? So by doing a programmed sequence of educational pieces or something of value by email, you develop a relationship, even if the customer's only been into your shop once. So in this podcast, we're talking about starting to gather the emails and the first names. Don't worry about last names. Here's a tip. When you do a form for subscribers that requires the last name, you cut down the number of subscribers by 75%. How do I know that? Over 50 million emails processed. I can tell you that's how it works. Once you start collecting those first names and emails, you'll be able to use the next podcast, which is about how to programmatically or in real time send them engagement so they can connect with you, they can recognize your brand, and you can develop that relationship. So that's it for today. I'm Ron Davies for Business Builder on quintybiz.com. Have a wonderful day. Shoot us any questions on the contact link at Quinty Biz. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.